Now, in a press conference in Washington, D.C., President Marcos explained that the concept from an ammo hub was not a recent development. Manila itself had such a proposal, which could generate 300 jobs in the pipeline starting last year. This is the program it falls under.
The United States is assisting the Philippines in what we call our self-reliance defense program, which is to allow us to be self-reliant and to be able to stand on our own 2 feet, whatever the circumstances that occur in the future. And the reason that we have encouraged more interaction with the United States is because it is necessary. And it is not just with the United States. It is with all our neighboring countries and even countries as far afield as the Scandinavian countries, the EU. And so this is an ongoing process. And again, I will stress the point that we do this because we feel it is necessary.
On June 24th, a report by a U.S. House subcommittee noted the lack of a munitions hub in the region and suggested setting one up at the former U.S. Subic Bay base, instructing the Pentagon to study the feasibility. Now, according to the Manila Standard, the facility would enable the forward staging of ammunition stockpiles and the materials used to make ammunition, such as nitrocellulose, nitroglycerin and acid. Renato, let me come to you first. So we heard there what Marcos said. He said, I stress that we do this because we feel it's necessary. We're going to come to the Philippine side later on. Let's focus on the U.S. side. Trump said, this is very important to me. Why is it such a big deal for the U.S.?
Well, number one, of course, is possible preparation for, just in case you have a push comes to shove situation. What, of course, the Pentagon and the U.S. defense establishment realize in the light of the Russia-Ukraine war, you really have to build up your industrial base just in case you have to fight a modern industrial war. You use a lot of ammunitions, you use a lot of missiles, you have to prepare them. Plus, there's also recognition on the part of the United States Navy that its merchant fleet has basically declined. Because again, that's emphasized earlier that American shipyards do not anymore produce that much ships. That's of course needed by both the United States Navy and merchant fleet. So of course, there's necessary at least to build up your industrial facility to support a modern industrial war, just in case push comes to shove in the Indo-Pacific region.
You said push come to shove, you mean a Taiwan crisis?
Also South China Sea.
Right, okay.
And of course, even Senkaku, just in case.
Right, absolutely, East China Sea. So what message is China getting, Guillemot, from this?
Well, I think they're getting several messages. One message is that their aggression against the Philippines is causing the Philippines to want to have supplies in case the PLA decides to make their presence more violent, as we saw last year when one of the Coast Guard from the Philippines members was hit and lost his thumb. So this is an anticipation of an aggressive China. And so what the message that China should receive is stop being aggressive. And if they did, maybe people in other countries in the region would stop worrying about their buildup of their military and their Coast Guard and their illegal activities in the Southeast Asian Sea, which we've seen numerous islands become military bases.
Yeah, Renato mentioned Ukraine, obviously, burning through that ammunition. Ammunition is very necessary. We heard what Donald Trump said. Where would the U.S. be getting munitions in this area if it wasn't from the Philippines?
Well, there are several other locations, such as Japan, Guam, Marshall Islands, Saipan, Australia, Diego Garcia, and possibly even in Taiwan. There's talk about developing weapon storage facilities in Taiwan. However, one of the most important things that a military planner, especially a logistics planner, would be worried about is the accessibility of these munition sites during a conflict. For example, if there was something happening between the Philippines and Taiwan in that direction, then things coming from Japan might not be able to get there. Maybe the PLA Navy might be controlling the east side of the Philippines, and so any supplies coming from Guam or any other island is prevented. So the idea is you want to make a variety of places in case a variety of situations occur.
So to ensure the survivability.
Correct.
Renato, let's turn to the Philippines. So why is the Philippines keen to establish this? Let's go first to Sara Duterte. She's accusing Marcos of acting in the U.S. national interest rather than the Philippine national interest, and saying that the facility would make the Philippines a target. What does the Philippines get out of this?
Well, it was mentioned earlier by President Marcos about the self-reliant defense posture. This is, of course, linked to the Philippines' effort to shift away from internal security and, of course, look at the prospect of territorial, or what the euphemism term is, external defense, which is, of course, primarily directed at China. That's why in January 2024, the Secretary of National Defense announced the Comprehensive Archipelagic Defense concept. So we have to basically build up the industrial base to support the Philippines' shift from internal security to external defense, from an army-centric military to one that is, of course, geared for naval warfare, drones, modern warfare. And we simply, the Philippine government, the armed forces of the Philippines simply need an industrial base. And of course, the best place is, of course, also ask the United States and other treaty allies to support the buildup of this industrial base. That's why when Secretary Hegseth visited Manila last April, part of the plan includes the development of an industrial blueprint to basically support, probably what we might call the military-industrial complex. That is, of course, necessary not only for the United States, but more importantly, for the defense of the Philippines. And this was, of course, no less emphasized by President Marcos. It's for our protection. It's not basically to agitate or basically trigger an escalation against China. We need it. We need an industrial base to support an independent defense posture.
And alongside, Gemont, the self-reliance defense program, which is, the indigenous industrial base, what is it, though, that, if it's a joint, which it looks like it will be, a joint ammo hub, what does that mean in terms of the benefits for the Philippines? I mean, does it draw the U.S. deeper into helping, defend this ally, this treaty ally? Does it change rhetoric to action in terms of that mutual defense treaty from 1951?
Well, let's talk about the mutual defense treaty. Article 2 says the parties separately and jointly, by self-help and mutual aid, will maintain and develop their individual and collective capacity to resist armed attack. So they're following up what the treaty says. It's been, maybe I would say it's been not an important factor in the last few decades because obviously many countries in the region didn't think that there was a threat, but the rising dominance of the PLA Navy and the Coast Guard and all the actions they're doing, especially around the Philippines, made the Philippine government and the United States government realize that they need to start getting things ready according to these articles of the Mutual Defense Treaty. So both of them have an interest in having a supply of arms. Now, my experience has been in Israel, where there are also U.S.-only ammunition storage sites and Israeli and joint. So I would assume that similarly in the Philippines, there would be Philippine-only storage sites, U.S. and joint type things. And I would say also that the United States is looking at other places, like, for example, Papua New Guinea has allowed the United States to set up 6 sites there as well. So it's not just the Philippines. They're looking at where places to put these kinds of ammunition, fuel. The entire region is being looked at for this kind of logistics challenge because the tyranny of distance is a problem for the United States to support any kind of military operation in the region. So these forward basing, they're not bases, they're forward storage sites are very important. And let's to be clear, none of these are U.S. military bases. Subic Bay is not going to be a U.S. military base. It is only going to be a place where U.S. military will visit for a short period of time, then rotate in and out. And so it basically follows the constitution of the Philippine government that does not allow any permanent stationing of foreign military forces in the Philippines.
Right.